Konrad Stürtzel. Konrad Stürtzel von Buchheim, Sturtzl, about 1435 March 2, 1509, was a German jurist for canon laws, Dr. Jur. Can., Knight and Chancellor of the Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I. Konrad was born about 1435 as a son of a citizen in Kitzingen in Lower Franconia. In 1453, he went to the university in Heidelberg and left as a Master of Arts 4 years later. In 1460 he was one of the first professors at the young University of Freiburg in Breisgau, which belonged to Austria at that time, and became its president for the first time in 1469. At the same time he studied canon law and got his doctor's degree, Dr. Jur. Can. In 1478/1479 he again became president of the University of Freiburg. In parallel to his academic functions, Konrad was advisor to Archduke Sigismund of Austria since 1474. In 1481 he changed completely from the university to the court of Sigismund in Innsbruck and became his chancellor in 1486. When the upper classes of society, Ständegesellschaft of Tyrol, became unsatisfied with his misgovernment, Sigismund was compelled to hand over the leadership to King Maximilian I. In 1490 Konrad was significantly involved in organizing the transfer of power from Sigismund to Maximilian. Konrad was in attendance on the Roman-German king as his Chancellor of Tyrol. Obviously, in return for his support, he was ennobled by Frederick III. On January 24, 1488, which was confirmed 3 years later by his son Maximilian, who granted the name Stürzel von Buchen on July 4, 1491 in Nuremberg. The political significance of Chancellor Stürzel grew as Maximilian put the chancellery in Innsbruck more and more in charge of duties of the whole empire. But Maximilian's plan to make the court chancellery Hofkanzlei a chancellery of the empire Reichskanzlei got into a grim conflict with Archbishop Berthold von Henneberg, who was Elector Kurfürst and Archchancellor of the Jew. At the Imperial Diet Reichstag 1495, in the city of Worms, it came to a constitutional dispute about the relationship between the king and the estates of the realm stand, leading to the imperial reform. In these negotiations during the following imperial diets, Stürzel and other advisers had to act for the king, who was often absent. When Maximilian lost Milan to the French King Charles Roman VIII, he lost power and influence in his empire, and the court chancellery was withdrawn from all imperial duties 1500. Then Konrad asked for his retirement and was honorably discharged and allowed to keep his titles until the end of his life. Nevertheless, he was mandated for several diplomatic missions after his retirement. Konrad was also engaged in many foreign affairs, acting as a delegate of Sigismund and later Maximilian in negotiations with the Duke of Milan, with the Dukedoms Geldern, Friesland, and the Swiss. During his career, Stürzel gained considerable assets. On the one hand, the chancellor of the court was paid very well, but he also knew how to invest his money profitably. In 1491 he bought the villages Buchheim, Holzhausen, and Hugstetten northwest of Freiburg as a fiefdom lehen covering all rights and inhabitants. Beside that, he bought 7 neighboring houses in the centre of Freiburg, near the Gothic Munster, and rebuilt them in the 1490s into one large residence, which was the largest private house in town at that time. This was later known as Basler Hof, as it belonged from 1587 to the Cathedral Chapter Domkapitel of Basel, and after 1651 the government of Further Austria Vorderösterreich was located there. From 1933–1941 the Gestapo was located there, and it was mainly destroyed in 1944 during World War II. Reconstructed in 1951, it serves today as headquarters of the government of South Baden. In 1505 a new chorus was built in the Freiburg Minster, and Konrad sponsored the first chapel for the grave of his family. He ordered 2 stained glass windows with a picture of himself and his family, which were drafted by Hans Baldung several years after Konrad's death and finalized about 1530. The windows were replaced in 1910 by copies, as the original windows are in bad condition. Also in 1505 Conrad commissioned Hans Widies to fabricate a Three Kings altar for his residence, which can still be seen in the minster today. Conrad was married twice. His first wife was Elizabeth Grieser and his second wife was Ursula Locher. His hometown Kitzingen, the city of Freiburg, and the village Buchheim nearby named a street after him.